Here in the land of barbecue and jazz, the Kansas City Chiefs have a legacy of rushing the quarterback that few teams can match. Buck Buchanan, Bobby Bell, Art Still, Neil Smith, and of course Derek Thomas. That's why when it comes to football, Kansas City is also a pass rush city. The legacy of the Chiefs' pass rush began in the late 60s under coach Hank Stram, who recognized the necessity of getting after the quarterback in the pass-happy AFL. Other teams had star quarterbacks like Oakland's Darryl LaMonica, Buffalo's Jack Kemp, and New York's Joe Namath, and the Chiefs had a pretty good one of their own in Len Dawson. But they also had one thing most teams did not have: a ridiculous bevy of talent on the defensive side of the ball.
We'd like to get on the line, across the line, and challenge every one of the guys on offense. And that was a big challenge for us, is that, hey, we can outplay you, we can out-quick you, we can out-manhandle you. And that's what we did all the years that I played with the Chiefs.
The Chiefs were big, they were fast, and they were deep.
We realized that the value of the rushers, obviously, and tried to incorporate the whole package with those players. But I think, once you get them and you kind of say, hey, wait a minute, we want to maintain this pattern or this profile that we've got for rushers.
The Chiefs won Super Bowl IV with defensive ends Jerry Mays and Aaron Brown crashing from the ends, and 6'7" defensive tackle Buck Buchanan pushing the middle. Behind them, Stram had Bobby Bell, a linebacker who was his best and most versatile player, and Willie Lanier, who would one day join Bell, Buchanan, and defensive tackle Curly Cope in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So when Stram wanted to add a little more pressure on the quarterback, he'd send Lanier and Bell after the passer, and the results were devastating. The year after they won the Super Bowl, the Chiefs ranked first in the AFL in both points allowed and yards allowed.
We didn't care if this guy made the sack, as long as that one of us got to the guy. I would tell Jerry Mays sometimes, I said, hey, Jerry, you take the inside, I take the outside. I said, hey, I'll get to him. And we'll joke about it and say, hey, if you don't get to him, then you're in trouble,
Sacks would not become an official stat until 1982, but they were big plays just the same, and the old school Chiefs fed off them.
Jerry Mays was a quick outside guy. He wasn't that big, a lot of people didn't know. But he was strong, but he had that quickness, and he studied the game. Buck was the same way. Buck was big, he a manhound, but he had so much quickness. And then you got Curly Cup, and Curly's so quick, Curly was a guy that he was a wrestler champion, I mean, he'd laugh about it, and to him it was funny, to beat a guy. And I think we all felt that way.
From 1966 to 1973, the Chiefs won a combined 75-31 during the regular season and made the playoffs 4 times. But once Stram was fired by the Chiefs in 1974, after 3 consecutive non-playoff seasons, it ushered in an era of futility. From 1975 to 1988, the Chiefs only posted 2 winning seasons and made the playoffs just once. Not even Art Still, a finely chiseled 6'7", 255-pounder who played 10 years for the Chiefs and ranks 4th in club history with 73 sacks, could lead them to past glory. This allowed the George Brett-led Royals to become Kansas City's team for most of the 80s. But with a new decade came the rise of Kansas City as a born-again, bona fide football town. The Chiefs traded up to get former Nebraska star Neil Smith in 1988, and a year later, head coach Marty Schottenheimer was hired to bring his physical brand of football to the Midwest. That year, general manager Carl Peterson also made a decision that would shape a franchise and define a decade of excellence for Kansas City Chiefs football.
When I got the job and then hired Marty, I told him, I said, look, we're picking 4th. And I said, let's be honest, if we're picking 4th again, At some later date, you and I probably aren't going to be here, so let's not screw it up. Let's make the right choice.
The flashy new image of the early 90s Chiefs was epitomized by the man Peterson selected with that pick, Derek Thomas. On the field, the man known as DT lived up to his reputation as a pass rush monster.
You know, I mean, the guy was so explosive, but he had, for myself, I think Marty would concur that probably the quickest first couple steps I've ever seen of anybody, and he almost felt like, you know, he was cheating. He knew the snap count, but he also was very smart. He watched a lot of things. You know, he told me later many times the quarterback's hands under the center would tell him when the ball's coming up.
Thanks to Thomas and Smith, the Chiefs became one of the league's most consistent winners under Schottenheimer. From 1989 to 1998, they won 101 regular season games, made the playoffs 7 times, and Thomas's 116.5 sacks in the 90s were the most in the decade by any NFL player. Of course, Thomas's 7-sack game against the Seattle Seahawks on November 11, 1990 cemented his status as an elite pass rusher and will forever go down in Kansas City lore. With the Schottenheimer era over, Peterson found 2 more pass rushing terrors in Jared Allen, a 4th-round pick from Idaho State in 2004, followed by Penn State's Tamba Hali in the 1st round in 2006. Allen, who had some off-field issues earlier in his career, racked up 43 sacks with the Chiefs but clashed with Peterson. He was traded to Minnesota in 2008.
He was truly a cowboy. That's what he was. He was a cowboy. He was a wild guy in college and in Idaho, whatever. But he also, you know, had this uncanny ability on pass rushes. Not so much like Derek. Jared was more relentless, like Thomas.
Hali, a 3-time Pro Bowler, ranks 3rd all-time in Chiefs history with 73.5 sacks, entering his 9th season with the team.
Guys that play against him hate him because he's still giving the same effort in the 4th quarter that he gives in the first snap in the 1st quarter, and he just wears you down. But he, like any pass rusher, needs, like you say, a compliment. I think the acquisition of Houston was really good. And I guess he and Jared did play together for a couple of years.
Hali was joined in 2011 by fellow outside linebacker Justin Houston, who has racked up 26.5 sacks in his last 32 games. And together, they were the league's most devastating tandem last season until Houston missed the final 5 games due to an elbow injury. Because Hali is 31 this season and Houston was entering the final year of his contract, the Chiefs added to their collection of pass rushers with the selection of defensive end D Ford in the 1st round of the 2014 NFL Draft.
Knowing this kid is coming, he's going to be able to help us. We was in situations last year, you know, only having 1 pass rusher in the game, and you know, when 2 guys are in the game, it's kind of deadly. Now we add a 3rd. Hopefully we can get all of us on the field.
Ford, who coined the phrase pass rush city in training camp and played his college ball at Auburn, fittingly chose uniform number 55, the number Derek Thomas wore at arch rival Alabama.
Derek Thomas, I know y'all remember that speed, man. That get off is so vital and it's so deadly. Just the speed rush itself, it opens up everything.
After Ford's selection, Chiefs owner Clark Hunt mentioned that Ford's rare acceleration off the ball and bend around the corner was reminiscent of Thomas. Ford recognizes he has a long way to go to live up to that standard and become the next great Chiefs pass rusher. But it is a challenge that Ford cherishes. After all, he knows which city he plays in.
It's pass rush city, man.